Good afternoon, my fellow traders. My name is Michalis. I'm one of the market analysts here at HFM, and I'd like to welcome to another live charts in action session where we're going to be looking at the NASDAQ. We're going to be looking at NVIDIA. We're going to be looking at the latest developments and what is potentially going to continue to drive momentum within the next few hours. Today, like I said, we're going to be looking at the NASDAQ. Now, the NASDAQ has been declining more or less throughout the whole month of November. So we're on the 20th day of November, and the NASDAQ has been seeing a downward trend. Yes, of course, with some minor retracements, minor corrections upwards, but throughout the 20 days, we have been forming a downward trend, and we have mainly been trading below the main moving averages and volume weighted average prices as well. Now, the reason why we're seeing a very large change in price action in the direction of the trend over the past few hours is because of the release of NVIDIA's quarterly earnings report, which was released last night after market close. So NVIDIA, which is actually one of the most important and influential companies and quarterly earnings reports that we're going to see, released their earnings last night. Now, their revenue was confirmed to have increased over the past 3 months by 62%. That is a massive beat, ladies and gentlemen. In addition to this, we also have to take into consideration that their chips, which are being sold for the purpose of AI, are also up by 66%. And again, that is a massive increase. Generally speaking, their revenue, quarterly earnings per share as well, all beat expectations. In addition to that, they did give positive forward guidance as well for the next quarter. Because of this, ladies and gentlemen, the price of NVIDIA stocks increased by almost 5%. And of course, that's driving upward price movement for the NASDAQ. It's also driving upward price movement for the Dow Jones and S&P 500 as well. However, it may not be as simple as that. Now, when we're looking at technical analysis, we're in a level now of a neutral signal. We're neither getting a signal or indications from moving averages, also from the RSI and the MACD as well, that the price is going to increase in value or that it's going to decrease in value. This is also in line with fundamental analysis as well, because when we look at fundamental analysis, the latest developments are indicating that the Federal Reserve is not going to cut interest rates in December like we had previously thought. Because of this, we have to keep into consideration that can significantly pressure the stock market as it applies more pressure on consumer demand, on investor sentiment, and also it means that the market is incorrectly pricing the NASDAQ and stock market in general. So that's something which is negative. That's something which we're probably going to get a better understanding of in a few minutes when we get the non-farm payroll released. In addition to this, though, ladies and gentlemen, of course, those are the negative factors which could drive potentially the price of the NASDAQ lower. In addition to this, like I said, the most important company with the highest weight is NVIDIA. Their quarterly earnings report was massively positive. So there we have conflicting signals. So not only technical analysis, which is indicating a neutral level, but also fundamental analysis is indicating something very similar. Now, why do I say it's at a neutral level? Yes, the NASDAQ has increased above the 75 bar exponential moving average, which is a key indication, but it's not traded above the 100 bar simple moving average. So we're trading in between those two levels, which is also known as the trading cloud. Now, if we're at the trading cloud, we're at a point where the price is at a neutral level. We don't yet, in terms of the medium term, because keep in mind, this is a 2-hour time frame. In terms of the medium term, we don't yet have an indication that the price is going to increase. In addition to this, the RSI is only just above the 50 level. We're currently trading at 56. So that is also very close to a level where the price is neutral. And if we're looking at the waves of the price movement, we are still experiencing lower lows and lower highs. So if we look at this high here and the low and the most recent high, we can see there's a downward tilt. If we look at the two most recent lows again, we're looking at a downward tilt. So even though we've seen that upward price movement, which was driven massively by the positive earnings reports, there is still, ladies and gentlemen, indications that the price can still decline. Now, because we are looking at a retracement, we have to, of course, take into consideration both potential setups for upward price movements and also for downward price movements. Now, if we switch over to a smaller time frame, here we've got a 3-minute time frame. If we're looking at a 3-minute time frame, we're again still in an area of neutral indications. We're forming a symmetrical triangle pattern, which is an indication of neutral price movements. If we're looking at the stochastic oscillator up to very recently was crossed over downwards, but at the same time it's trading above the neutral level. And if we're looking at the 200 bar simple moving average, which is extremely important, we are seeing an indication that the price is below. So if we're looking at the 2 hour, we're trading above the 75 bar. If we're looking at the 3-minute time frame, we're trading below the 200 bar. So again, there's conflicting indications there. So what we need to understand is where we're going to get indications that the price is going to form a bullish bias or a bearish bias. Now, if we're going to cross above the 200 bar simple moving average, which is currently at this point here, if we're crossing above that level, and if I zoom out just to give you a better understanding, if we cross above that level, then we're above the 200 bar moving average. We definitely will see a bullish crossover on the stochastic oscillator, and we'll be trading generally high on the stochastic oscillator. If we cross above that level, we're also above the level where the support point can be flipped onto the resistance point. And there also is an indication that the retracement has lost its momentum and we're seeing a renewed bullish price movement. Now, if we get that indication, okay, so we trade above this level, which renews and gives us a stronger bias of upward price movement. If we see that, and at the same time, we see that the non-farm payroll figure was slightly weaker than expected, in which case possibilities of an interest rate cut will suddenly increase again like we saw a few weeks ago, then that would really fuel that bullish bias and see potentially buy signals materialize again. However, ladies and gentlemen, if we are going to trade below this level here, this is the swing low, and when we're going to take the swing low into consideration, there's 2 levels we can look at. We can even look at the retracement losing its momentum and gaining downward price movement, in which case it's at the 61% level, which is at this blue line, which is an earlier entry. Alternatively, we can look at the breakout, which is at this level here, which is a slightly later entry. If we drop below these 2 levels, then most likely we're going to drop below the 75 bar exponential moving average again. Most likely we will go below 50, and the MACD will become closer to getting to the neutral level. So signals, if we see that volatility really start to turn onto the red side, to the bearish bias. So that's something we also can take into consideration. If we see NFP rise higher than expected, and the average hourly earnings and the unemployment rate also better than expected, then that will definitely fuel downward price movement, because the interest rate cut more or less will be off the tables, especially if in the upcoming weeks we see a lower inflation rate. A higher inflation rate. So that's again something we can take into consideration. So there's 2 levels that we can look at, ladies and gentlemen. We can even look at upward price movement if we're going to see momentum rise above this blue line here. Alternatively, if we lose momentum and strength and we see downward price movement below these 2 levels here, then we can see potentially indications of downward price movement. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, we've seen a lot of bullish price movement. It was driven by very positive earnings from quarterly earnings reports by NVIDIA, the most influential and impactful company on the stock exchange. That's the reason we've seen upward price movement. It's retraced. Regardless of that, we're still seeing some indications from fundamental analysis and technical analysis that the NASDAQ potentially may still decline. So we have to be cautious about upward price movement. But at the end of the day, it's all going to depend on the NFP which is about to be released, and the volatility and the breakout we're going to see from these three blue lines. So that's it for today. Hopefully you found it educational and informative. Trade safe, trade responsibly, and hopefully we'll see you very soon, either on our live analysis sessions or on our webinars. In the meantime, goodbye.